episode 304 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 21st of October 2024. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
I'm back.
Graham.
Hello, Phelim.
And Will.
Hello.
Yeah, so for the audience, Phelim has been here every other week for the last 2 months.
It was very confusing for me, I'll tell you, because I didn't remember recording the previous Monday.
Yeah. So we have not spoken to you properly for 2 months now. It was warm. It was hot last time you recorded, and now it's fucking freezing. So thank you for joining us again.
Are we going to tell him we replaced him with AI?
Oh, well, you replaced me with fucking Popey enough times. I was beginning to think my chair was not going to be able to sit in anymore.
Oh, well. Before we get into the news, just a quick shout out to everyone who I met at oCamp. It was great. Met old friends and new. So, yeah, and also thanks for coming to my talk. I'm going to say this exact same thing on Linux After Dark later this week, because I've already said that, but let's not get into that. Anyway, let's get into the news. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the WordPress saga. Well, it has escalated. There's a plugin called Advanced Custom Fields that is made by WP Engine. Well, that has been forked by WordPress, which, okay, that's fair enough. It was open source. They were perfectly within their rights to do that. However, if you are running a self-hosted WordPress and you have automatic updates on and you had Advanced Custom Fields installed, well, your automatic update delivered Secure Custom Fields, the fork. This is a step too far. Phelim, you weren't around last time when we talked about this. Have you been following this whole saga?
Well, the first I heard of it was when you guys were talking about it, because I've been very much out of the loop of accessing news because I was traveling all over the place. And yeah, it just sounds so fucking ridiculous. Let's just make one thing clear. WordPress is a terribly, terribly shit way to run a site. And everybody who's using it deserves all of this. All of this.
Phelim, our website runs on WordPress.
Oh, shit. Right. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's terrible to see, you know, two communities go at each other like this.
Look, I know it's out of fashion, and Amalith is working on a proper website for us, but he has been for about 6 months.
Can you get him to do colours for us too? Because, I mean, that'd be really amazing if he could just do colours.
No. We're not getting colours, sorry.
The one thing I thought was quite funny about this is that Mullenweg really is wanting to be the baddie.
Yep.
Like, he's going out of his way to be the most awful person. It's like venture capitalism. It's like David Hannemer Hansen says, don't make me cheer for the private equity guys. And it's like, disturbingly, they seem like they're more sort of rational.
They seem like less of the baddie, don't they?
For the moment, anyway. I guess it's not, you know, to the moon quite yet.
But what do we think about this, forking a plugin and basically forcing it on people?
Yeah, I think it's bad. And I think we called it right when we discussed this last time. We gave him the benefit of the doubt last time a little bit, and we're definitely sympathetic to the reasons why he was reacting with the checkbox and things, but I think this is proof that he's not dealing with this in an appropriate way.
I feel for what I assume is the majority of WordPress users who don't really have a clue who is behind WordPress, whether they're using the genuine thing or they're using WP Engine or whatever. They don't know. They are creators of articles. They create posts. They have a login. They know how to use it. Fine, they get on with it. And they have no need to understand all of this stuff that's behind it. But yet, one day they log in and suddenly one of their plugins has changed. Now, it probably hasn't changed very much, but maybe they notice the name has changed. Maybe they don't. Maybe they start adding features to SCF that aren't in ACF, and that leads to confusion and people really don't understand why. So I think we talked about this last time, but the real victims in all of this are the sort of innocent users who don't really understand what's going on. They just know how to put posts up on their corporate website or their club website. It's a bit of a shitty state of affairs.
Well, I've got a feeling this is going to rumble on and on because he's not backing down, is he?
I think we'll hear next from Guy Incognito, who is not at all Mullenweg, but has forked another plugin.
Or we hear of a fork of WordPress.
Yeah.
Where the original plugin runs fine.
Will it be called Pressword? Oh, sorry.
I'm calling it now LibrePress.
Yeah, Jesus.
Open press.
All right. The window of opportunity is starting to open. Google has started automatically disabling uBlock Origin in Chrome. It seems they're rolling this out quite slowly because I was able to install it no problem yesterday. But This is a huge opportunity for Firefox. And all of us listening to this presumably have set people up with Chrome and uBlock Origin. I know I have. When it gets disabled, people are going to get a notification and they're going to come to you and ask you what to do. And what you have to tell them is move to Firefox.
Yes, that's when you break down and cry in front of them.
Yeah.
You know that in a couple of months, there'll be a news story called Mozilla has started to automatically disable uBlock Origin in Firefox.
No, because they are continuing to support Manifest v2 plugins. So I cannot believe that they will do the same thing.
You have listened to our show, right?
Is this the Christmas show?
No, I'm going to be positive about Firefox.
Ressington Nullpaw.
Look, I'm just ignoring all of the past.
You're right. This is a gift. This is an absolute fucking gift. This is what Firefox exists to do. Yes, please capitalize on it and be successful.
Be bloody ruthless as well. I want them to actually trumpet this, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's up to all of us, isn't it? As a community who support other people who are less technical than us. Instead of try this other Chrome-based browser that just about supports it or use the uBlock Origin Lite version, no. Rip off the plaster, the Band-Aid as the Americans call it. Move them to Firefox.
And remember that after the initial move, it's actually painless. Your passwords move across very easily. All of your account stuff and bookmarks move across very easily. It's not a massive ordeal. So, yeah, do it. Don't be afraid that it's going to generate more questions and more work. It may do for a couple of days, but honestly, it is seamless.
How can they screw this up?
Well, now.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Look, positive. Let's just think positive. This is a great opportunity and it's going to go really well.
Despite numerous fucking history to its country.
Look, we're not interested in evidence here. We're just interested in being positive.
What was the percentage of income for Firefox that came from Google? Was it about 99.99% or something?
Look, it's going to be fine. The Firefox market share is going to go up as a result of this and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Google must crack open Android for third-party stores, rules Epic judge. So, you may remember that Epic went to battle with Apple and Google over not paying the Apple and Google tax, basically the App Store taxes. Well, it didn't go very well with Apple, but it's gone reasonably well for the Google side of things. And so the judges ordered Google to allow other app stores within the Play Store. So you'll be able to go and install a third-party app store without loads of horrible warning screens, and it will actually be updatable via Google Play. This is excellent news for an open ecosystem, I think, even if it came about through Epic and their legal shenanigans. I think the result of this, as long as it doesn't get overturned on appeal, I think is going to be great.
I think you're right. And I've wanted to say for a while, when we mentioned that F-Droid now is allowed to update apps in place without requesting your permission, I've really noticed the benefit of that and I love it. And this is kind of the final step in things like F-Droid becoming a real viable alternative. Yeah, so thanks, Epic. Now can we have Fortnite on the Steam Deck?
Not wishing to be the voice of dissent here, but I don't think it's a great thing because I think that the vast majority of Android users do not know or care about third-party app stores. And it really isn't going to have an effect for a lot of those people. But some of those people will browse to a website that says, oh, here's how you add this special store, and then you can install this secret app like this, and their phone is going to fill up with malware and all sorts of crap, and your phone will be less dependable as a result.
All right, it seems like you're in the pocket of Big Google.
He does this, though. He's always messaging me about the fucking Voyager probe's fucked. It can't be talked to anymore. And now he's taking away my F-Droid in my phone. It's like, he's just a misery cuts.
You are welcome to keep F-Droid, but I don't think that the answer for the normal person in the street is another app store.
Actually, what you're saying sounds very familiar to the early days of Android. Do you remember? And that's exactly what people did before there was a properly established store.
I don't care about normal people. I care about me. I care about my freedom, my software freedom. It's not true software freedom, but it's freer than the situation is now.
No, it's not. It's exactly the same. You can already install a third-party app store on your phone if you know how to do it.
True.
So why bother?
Well, this stops me having to go in and toggle the thing that says allow unsafe sources.
That is a pain. You're right. Well, good luck to you all. That's what I say.
Well, I think this is going to be US only anyway, so it's not really going to affect me. But, well, thanks a lot, Neil, for taking a positive story and shitting all over it. Very much on brand.
Send us your positive stories, readers, and we will find the negative edge.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by Tailscale. Go to tailscale.com/LNL. Tailscale is the easiest way to connect devices and services to each other, wherever they are. Everyone these days has a VPN as a sponsor, but Tailscale isn't like those. This isn't about hiding your browsing habits from coffee shop owners, and it's not about watching Netflix in another country. Tailscale is a proper VPN for connecting your devices securely. It's great for companies, and it's great for self-hosters. I use Tailscale to send ZFS snapshots to my parents' house, and I didn't have to open any ports to get it set up. Other late-night Linux family hosts use Tailscale for all sorts, including controlling 3D printers, remoting into relative systems for support, and controlling Home Assistant. Tailscale is zero-trust network access that every organization can use, and with Tailscale's ACL policies, you can securely control access to devices and services with next-gen network access controls. With Tailscale, you can do all sorts, like connect multiple cloud providers together as if they were a flat network, authenticate without authentication using Tailscale app connectors, or send files securely to any node from any node on your Tailnet using Taildrop. Tailscale's personal plan will always be free, so support the show and try Tailscale out for free today. You'll get up to 100 devices and 3 users for free at tailscale.com/LNL with no credit card required. That's tailscale.com/LNL. Well, let's see if we can be positive about this one. The open source pledge. The TLDR is pay open source maintainers and self-report annually.
$2,000? $2 fucking grand?
Give him a sentence, Phelim.
I'm sorry, but still, I'm bitter. This is ridiculous.
Look, the idea of this is, if you are a company that uses open source, then you should contribute to open source, and they ask you to contribute $2,000 per year per developer at your company. So if you're a Google, for example, and you've got thousands of developers, then for everyone, you should donate a couple of grand a year.
Oh, lovely. I mean, okay, technically, so I've got me, so I have to donate a 2,000 grand for myself then, do I? Like, it's all fine and well if you're the likes of Google. All these things always act like it's, you know, massive Fortune 500 or 100 companies. There is more companies out there that are not that big. But yes, it's a good thing, I guess.
It's not mandatory, though.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, fine. Still, I do find it a bit galling.
Look, this is social pressure to fund open source. This isn't some government mandate. This is a voluntary scheme. The idea being that if enough people do it, then you'll be shamed if you don't do it. Surely this is how it should work.
And you can join all 26 members. Really ripping out of the blocks there, like.
Look, it has to start somewhere, doesn't it?
I don't recognize a single one of those companies, though. That's the thing. Not a single one. There's not a single big company in there or known company to me. Laravel, maybe, because I had to update some PHP stuff, and that is apparently the new hype cure for the update system. But I don't recognize any of these other ones. I mean, yes, you're right. It does have to start somewhere, but it is a bit disappointing that not a single big company went, yeah, we'll pitch in. That sounds good.
It's still early days. They're doing it in the right way. You don't give them any money. It goes straight to the company or the developers that you're supporting, and you get to put one piece of flair on your website. I think that this is a bit like at the end of TV shows where it says how much CO2 was generated by that TV show. You think, oh, yeah, okay, that's a number that doesn't mean anything to me. And I think this is a little bit more quantifiable. You can tell by the size of the company roughly what they are supposedly giving. And I think that that's a really good idea. But I think it's going to just go nowhere, because we've seen stuff like this before. It really needs huge companies to get behind it and get a real load of momentum building up, and I don't think anyone cares enough.
Does it say anywhere that it's 100% of what you pledge goes to the open source? What's their cut? And can we set up a similar kind of initiative for open source pledges? And I promise we'll send all the money to the open source projects.
They don't take the money. You give it to the cause yourself, and then you self-acknowledge that you've done it.
Okay, that's good. I'm sorry. I apologise.
Yeah, don't be so cynical, Graham.
Our scheme, though, will only take brown envelopes.
Okay, that makes sense. And yes, I support that idea.
Yeah, does Open Source Pledge handle funds? Payments are made directly to maintainers. We never handle any funds. It's just a pressure group. It's just, as Will says, have this badge to put on your website if you self-report that you've done this. And if you lie about that, I mean, you could probably get away with it, but eventually you'll get found out and shamed.
Yeah, and I think that this is the right way to go about it. I think we've tried various mechanisms for sponsorship, and none of them have really shown a huge amount of success. I think that this is a much more modern way of dealing with the problem. Just encourage people, put a bit of peer pressure on there. Maybe it will get momentum behind it.
Releasing WinAmp source goes badly, for its owners anyway, says the Register. This is pretty funny. So WinAmp got open sourced, but the original license said you weren't allowed to fork it. But this was on GitHub. So that was never going to work. And it turns out that they had included a load of other shit that they shouldn't have. And then they kind of changed the license. People started forking it. And then they realized, oh no, there's this other stuff in there. And then they just deleted the repo. But it's a bit too late because people have already forked it. The code is out there. Whether anyone's going to actually do anything with that code, I don't know. I doubt it. But it's just quite a funny example of people thinking they can just chuck code over the wall without realizing that actually they should have maybe gone through it first at least and read it and maybe tidied it up a bit.
It's quite telling that Justin Frankel, who was one of the original developers of WinAmp, said, if I did have any desire to contribute, it would be extinguished by the license terms, lol. So, yeah, like it was just never going to be a success. I think they did it for a bit of fun. I don't think they really expected people to want to do the whole open source thing and fork it and make new versions and adopt it and breathe life into it. I think they just thought it would be a bit of a fun thing to do on a Friday afternoon, and it kind of blew up in their faces.
That Frankel lad works for a company called what? Who makes Reaper? Cock us? What?
I have this vague memory of WinAmp having crypto stink on it, like NFTs or something like that.
Really? Oh, wow.
So we probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but oh well, at least we can laugh at them.
It was an interesting project to put on GitHub in the same way that, didn't they put the Windows 95 source code on there recently? Something like that. It's kind of that level of relevance that when we were all much younger, it was an amazing bit of software that you could play files that you'd got off eDonkey, and everyone was doing it. For a little while it was relevant, and then it kind of just went away, and it was nice to see the code up there, but a shame that it's not going to go anywhere, and it's not going to be breathed back into life. And do we really need it anymore? I suppose that's the real question.
Right, let's have a real cheerful story then. Ward Christensen, the co-developer of the CBBS, has died.
Thanks, Will. Again. Space probes, tech founders, you know, what's next?
Death is near for all of us, some more than others. But I felt that this was worth bringing up because BBSs, when I were a lad, and all of you guys as well, maybe not Joe, BBSs were the way in which we accessed things like email and spoke to people online. And it was hugely important, especially to me personally, that a BBS existed and that I could dial up to it and send messages and email. The very first time me and Stuart Langridge got hold of a modem, we had to write our own X modem implementation so that we could get on it to download a Z modem implementation so we could download some files. And Ward Christensen was part of the the duo that really wrote Xmodem, and it has a huge part to play in my life and my relationship with technology. So I think it's worth just calling it out and pointing people to the obituary on the register, because he really was a father of the internet age.
That modem that you had to write, did you have to actually like put the handset into one of those docking station yokes to get it to work?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
no,
we did.
I was totally taking the piss there.
No, that's true. And then the school took it off of us, and when we found an auto dialing modem that worked at 1200 down, 300 up.
300 megabit, that's quite a lot.
300 bits.
I'm the same as well. It just was mind-blowing that you could connect your computer to other people through a BBS. I've talked about it before, but FidoNet was a big part of that. The fact that you could kind of, like the federated network of messaging, but over like all of these BBSs dialing each other at some time in the night to make sure messages got across the world. And yeah, just seeing X modem written down like that, and then Y modem, and then Z modem, which was a revolution in terms of error checking and resuming downloads. But it's just burnt into my soul.
Because this predates the web.
It did predate the web by a little over 10 years. So that's quite a long time in internet period.
Yeah, that's like 1,000 years in internet time.
I ended up spending a year in college in the US, and one of the reasons why I did that was because you could get free local phone calls so that I could dial BBSs without worrying about the phone bill.
See also blue boxing.
Yeah, I'd set the war dialer and go to sleep and wake up in the morning and see what I'd got.
Did you ever speak to Dr. Franken and have a quick game of global thermonuclear war?
Okay, this episode is sponsored by 1Password. Imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. There are nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are company-owned devices, IT-approved apps, and managed employee identities. And then there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are the actual straightest line from point A to B. Those are unmanaged devices, shadow IT apps, and non-employee identities like contractors. Most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but a lot of security problems take place on the shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. It's security for the way we work today, and it's now generally available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. So support the show and check it out at onepassword.com/late-night-linux. That's onepassword.com/late-night-linux. On to a bit of admin then. First of all, thank you everyone who supports us with PayPal and Patreon. We really do appreciate that. If you want to join those people, you can go to latenightlinux.com/support. And remember that for various amounts on Patreon, you can get an advert-free RSS feed of either just this show or all the shows in the Late Night Linux family. And if you want to get in contact, you can email show@latenightlinux.com. Let's have some positivity then, shall we? Plasma 6.2 is out.
It is, and the first thing I noticed was my computer was talking at me, which I was very confused by. And it is the work that has been done on the accessibility, and there is a screen reader built in by default now, which is obviously using Orca as the back end, but that now works with everything, and I could hear it talking away as I moved my mouse around the screen. And I thought it's about time, and it's a really nice feature. And along with that is the colorblind stuff, which I'm not affected by, but it seems to be there's kind of varying types of color blindness, and based on whatever you have, intensity-wise, they can adjust the colors for the screen too. So I think the work that's been done on that is excellent, because it's often overlooked, and it's nice to see.
They talk about stuff for digital artists, like drawing tablet support and color stuff that is completely beyond me.
It's also beyond me, but yes, I've seen that too. There is a picture where they show that they've actually been able to do some sort of magic with blown out look to color, which I'm not really sure, but the slidey window thing shows you where the clouds look better in one side than they do beforehand. So that's quite cool. They've done a load of work on the power management stuff as well. I have upgraded my laptop to 6.2 and to the newly released 2404 base for Neon. So far, so good. I have a bit of an issue with Akanadi, but anyway, I'm sure that's just something that I have not installed properly. It's gone from strength to strength, and there's a new thing, not just the This Week in KDE Plasma, there's also now This Week in Apps, which is taken over as well to try and boost the sort of position of application stuff that's coming through as well. So lots of cool, exciting news on things.
AAA gaming on Asahi Linux. This is a post from Melissa talking about how they've managed to get some AAA games to work on Asahi Linux. It's very impressive. They've got x86 emulation, Windows emulation, and DirectX to Vulkan translation. So it's quite a complicated stack. But the long and the short of it is you can play at least some AAA games now.
I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing what they're doing without any official support. This is really, as far as I can see, very difficult, very technical, very low-level, domain-specific things that they're doing. And they're doing it and they're having these kind of results. I just don't know how they're doing it.
I didn't think this day would ever come, and I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure I said way back when we first started talking about Asahi Linux that this would never happen, and yet here it is. I'm looking at a screenshot of Cyberpunk 2077 running on a Mac, running Linux, emulating Windows, and it apparently is playable. It's absolutely extraordinary. It says it doesn't hit 60 frames per second yet, and I don't know what that means. It's like, does that mean it hits 50 frames a second, or does that mean it hits 2 frames a second?
I didn't think Cyberpunk 2077 ever hit 60 frames per second.
It does now. I played it once. It was really bad and buggy, and I never played it again. But my kids have played it, and they say that it is actually really quite playable now and really quite good. So maybe it's time to revisit that.
Well, Asahi keeps surprising us in terms of their achievements. I thought that it'd never even boot, never mind getting to the point where they've got proper, decent games running on it. So well done. A bit of nostalgia then. Ubuntu 4.10, the Warty Warthog, was released Wednesday the 20th of October 2004, so 20 years ago yesterday. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. But I can remember working for a magazine and writing a review and not being too positive about that first release. So well done, Ubuntu.
They stuck at it, Graham, despite your nasty words.
Please don't sack me.
Well, by the time we got to 8.04, which was less than 4 years later, it was fucking rock solid. That was my first proper Linux experience, and I'd tried some versions before that were pretty solid. But my understanding is that, yeah, the first one, I mean, they called it the Warty Warthog, presumably because it was a bit rough around the edges. But it did get good very quickly.
Oh, yeah, I remember it like it was a few weeks ago. I was running Debian on the desktop instead, and it was pretty good, but felt old. Even at that point, it felt old. And then Ubuntu wandered in with these new kernels and drivers and shit for Wi-Fi, and everything worked. It was just quite extraordinary, and it really has been a case of improving every time. Every release gets better and better, and that is due to the entire open source ecosystem. It is due to the work that the GNOME Foundation have done. It is due to the work that the Linux Foundation have done. It is due to the work that laptop producers like Lenovo and Dell have done to put people on writing drivers for Linux and getting them into the kernel. So really, I think that would have happened anyway, but perhaps to a lesser extent. And the popularity that Ubuntu was able to establish really quickly encouraged those other people to move forwards and write drivers and put people on these projects. And so I think we owe a great deal of gratitude to Ubuntu for really spurring the desktop Linux success story.
Yeah, I think the free CD service was absolutely amazing, where you could just write in and say, I need a pack of 20 CDs, and then give them out to anybody that you thought needed them. It was a great idea. I didn't start using it until Kubuntu 6.06, I think was the first one I used. I was using Gen 2 prior to that.
Oh, what a surprise.
Hey, Gen 2 was great. I used to love watching my processor catch fire every few minutes.
Jesus, compiling KDE even back then must have been a nightmare.
Oh, I think OpenOffice was the worst of the lot, though.
I think I was using Mandrake or Mandriva, whatever was around at the time. And I can remember feeling a little bit snobbish, I think, about the Ubuntu on the scene, I must admit. And I'm a bit embarrassed about that because it's the same kind of thing I see now in other distributions, looking down on other distributions. And I remember feeling a bit like that.
Well, I was using Windows XP. Right, well, we'd better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when we'll have some discoveries and who knows what else. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelim.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.